How many beans make gone? Phases of a lunacy, phase 9. Have you ever seen a dream walking and couldn't keep up with it? Blind faith and cracks in the eyes. I've always had a hard time responding to overcrowded reverence, to appropriately scheduled solemnity, as if I need to concede there is something so much more significantly important going on. My own relationship to the world truly pales in comparison. And the pressure to admit this is all but overwhelming. Do you know how easy it is to put doubt into the human mind about anything outside its personal experience? I've always believed reverence, like love, was a personal occasion, even as those moments so obviously embrace the whole of the human experience. Just needs no ritual or pageantry to proclaim or prove it. I prefer to give myself my own moments of silence. To be told this is selfish or disrespectful misses the point. Do we not all need to share those moments of reverent commemoration? Depends who or what we're commemorating and who or what orchestrated it and why they should demand we surrender to it. Though I'd never previously have used the word, in hindsight, I believe I considered it parts of a matrix that might suck me into false conclusions. Even as a kid, I'd suffer solemn ritual politely, let solemnity belong to those who feel it when they feel it. I never dream of dragging somebody into my solemnity, coercing somebody's attention to my own hurt. I must have been about 5, 6 years old when one of my grandfathers died, and I really liked the guy. I guess I loved the guy. He made me laugh. He made me smile. He was always fun to be around. And death was still unknown territory for me. Just felt too permanent to be believable. I remember turning up that morning in the school playground, my world gone so dark and unfathomable. There was a part of me shocked that nobody seemed to care what I was going through. Playtime as usual. If only they knew. But I never mentioned it, and life just went on. At the funeral, I could feel the tears welling up in my eyes during a hymn, Fight the Good Fight. And I knew that was the only reverence I needed. To prolong it any further would be a waste of good humour. Reverence for its own sake, not for my sake, not for my grandfather's sake or anybody else's. And anybody demanding I suffer for their sake was somehow missing the point. And being a little self-indulgent, I never wanted anybody to suffer for my sake. I never wanted to play the victim. Life goes on. We all have our own rituals that turn up on their own schedule. No heads up for polite pretense. Mandated reverence, organised. Religion seemed geared for that spirituality, primarily a solemn occasion. Death and suffering and reawakening into the light after death, when the bulb finally stops flickering and the light stays on forever. Humanity, a sheep in need of a shepherd, could never quite reconcile myself to that. I mean, if there's a Jesus, then Jesus is in me, in which case I'm my own shepherd and need to guide myself into the light. Any crisis of faith is losing faith in myself to be able to do that. And in essence, going to church was just looking for confirmation of that truth. Please tell me I'm really a good person, as if I couldn't decide that for myself. But sometimes we need communion en masse. Communicating, we're not communicating, we're not alone in this. When somebody makes me laugh, I know I'm not alone in this. Somehow, that always seemed a better approach. There's no victimhood in genuine laughter. We're all masters of our own occasion, and the spirit lights up. I needed to be very aware who or what was inciting darkness in this world and why. A sheepish laugh is a failure to really enjoy yourself, a throttled unwillingness to share your spirit for fear of consequences. You may be grounded for a week or cited for contempt of court. Failure to be solemnly reverent enough. How much darkness can a body endure before it turns its own light off? Of course, I could be wrong. It's one definition of critical thinking to be always reviewing your situation, reassessing your ethical practicalities. Everybody wants to tell a love story, but so often they wind up telling a story of loss. loss of innocence, loss of a child, a spouse, a parent, a friend, love unrequited, unconsummated, unspoken, unfulfilled, because most actual manifestations of love are either too fleeting or undramatic, or simply involving only yourself, unprovoked by intellect, unmuddied by passion, those telltale, inwardly momentous occasions of innocent appreciation of your heartbeat, sharing its heartbeat with a heart-beating world, too quickly drowned in the business of activity, diluting it into trite soap operatic sentiment and fashionably wrote endearments that such as Hallmark has so thoroughly and profitably co-opted on your behalf for every special occasion, which apparently makes love more believable, though in truth renders it merely appropriate. Any heart struggling to feel love is beating discordant notes. Its music and its magic is of the effortless. Love can be such a lonely and fragile occasion. It breaks the heart to open it up for scrutiny. It all but withers on any would-be poet's lips as soon as they open their mouth. No longer sure if that's what you're meant to feel anyway, if you can't confirm it with action. We generally act only in the memory of love, like desperately burying through a corpse, because you refuse to believe the heart is not still beating. So you offer a cup of tea and trust it's to the taste, because you really appreciate the company. Makes for a good natter, which is fair enough, though it doesn't usually make for a compelling mush-fest drama series, which is what you're looking for in a good love story, unless you fell helplessly in love over Pico and muffins, and it wrecks your marriage, threw your whole life into turmoil, and ended in somebody getting murdered or committing suicide, and you being jailed for the rest of your life for something you didn't do, though you had one hell of a motive and no alibi, and your ex-spouse is insisting you had nobody to blame but yourself for throwing away a decent marriage for an obsessive infatuation that could only end badly, all for love, and the world lustily well lost. Would you like a nice cup of tea instead? Earl Grey for those aristocratic taste buds, brewed with love in its aftertaste. I love my dog as much as I love you. I believe Cat Stevens said that. Put that on a Hallmark card. Anybody with a heartbeat. What's true doesn't always ring true. Somebody at the door. Love calling. Or is it just Fido forgotten his key? I only hope it's not the police. Some uniform wagging its tail feathers. You could be in trouble now. You just didn't love enough. Or maybe it's the mailman delivering a Hallmark card. I am loved by rhyming proxy, so afraid of feeling nothing but alone. Would you like a nice cup of tea, officer? I just lost my dog. I'm sorry. You must have loved him very much. Cream and sugar? Or would you prefer it black and unstirred? Is anybody following me on target practice? Do I care? Don't you care? Hey, I'd love a good bullseye. There was an Eskimo man once who would never show anybody his face. He always wore a hood. Nobody had ever seen his face, not even his young wife. They always ate in the dark, and he'd only make love to her when she wasn't looking. But he was a sweet, kind, gentle soul, and a very good provider of blubber, so she was happy to turn a blind eye to his one peccadillo, unlike her mother, who was convinced he must be hiding something. For one night she crawled uninvited into their igloo, the couple dining in the dark. What kind of a man would make his wife eat in the dark? Unless he's afraid she'll see what she's eating is not really blubber, it's walrus droppings. Well, the startled man turns his back, reaches for his hood, but it's too late. The mother flashes a lantern in his face. It's not a face at all, just a mass of cracks. She staggers back, gasping, "You're not a man at all. You must be a demon from the deep." She grabs her astonished daughter by the arm, drags her out of the igloo, never to return again. The man is heartbroken, feeling so terribly ashamed of himself. He strips off all his clothes, his whole body liquid tears seeping from the mass of cracks. He crawls out of the igloo, walks to the water's edge, and is never seen again. So he never knows how much his young wife missed him. Every day, for hours, she'd sit by the water's edge, watching and waiting for her husband to return. Till one day, a sheet of ice drifted gently to the shore, dissipated into a mass of cracks. And she knew, in her heart she knew, and she wept tears of joy because she knew her husband had finally found peace. Though she couldn't help wondering why he'd ever needed to pretend to be a human being at all, and not just the cracks in the ice. So much ugliness, it can blind you to the beauty. So much evil, it can blind you to the good. Perhaps death is the ultimate divide and conquer, breaking the heart, the spirit free at last.